the 17th of July, the SBU attacked facilities of Russia's nuclear triad. Something's on fire. Factories that produce the formidable Topol and Yars intercontinental nuclear ballistic missiles have been completely blown up. What a truly massive boom, bada boom. This event signifies a significant development.
And what's that?
Is Russia's nuclear triad truly under attack? The second phase of the SBU special operation continues. Attacks on Russia's northern and Pacific fleets. Attacks on nuclear submarines. The explosion of the Crimean Bridge and strikes on airfields with strategic nuclear aviation. A series of explosions in Crimea. There's panic and evacuation there.
Oh, what exactly is Ouch!
Friends, this morning an emergency occurred on the Crimean Bridge.
Oh, damn it all. Here we are. An emergency situation on the Crimean Bridge. As a result of the incident, car traffic on the Crimean Bridge has been stopped. We've been standing here since 4:25 in the morning. Around 5 o'clock, by 6, they turned us around here and sent everyone home to rest.
We ask all guests and residents of Crimea to use the land corridor through the new regions of the Russian Federation. We'll discuss all of this today with Dmytro Gordon as usual. Right now, he's back on Neptune's. Breaking news, friends, it's July 17th, and of course there are sensational news stories. America is ready for war with Russia because Senator Lindsey Graham stated that if Russia doesn't stop, it will be like with Iran. The US will strike the Kremlin's and Crimea's nuclear infrastructure. Tomahawks, JASSMs, Taurus missiles, Ukrainian ballistic missiles. Against this backdrop, there are explosions in Sevastopol, the destruction of the Black Sea Fleet, and attacks on submarines.
Whoa!
This is no longer a threat. This is a real plan. According to intelligence, there are storage sites for nuclear warheads, strategic air bases, and facilities of the Russian Federation's triad in Crimea. That's exactly where they could strike. Panic among the command, evacuation of Sevastopol, explosions in Dzhankoi, Kursk, Moscow, and the Moscow region. America has warned of the next strike on Russia. What does this mean? As usual on Thursdays, we're discussing this with Dmytro Gordon. Dmitry Ilyich, welcome.
Hello, Dasha, and hello to our esteemed audience.
Friends, as always, please like this video. In the comments, let us know what you think about the strikes on Russia's nuclear triad, about, let's say, Lindsey Graham's threats, and about the possibility of Ukraine receiving JASSM and Tomahawk missiles. Dmytro Ilyich, the floor is yours.
Tomahawks and Tamamyavki. So what do I think about strikes on the nuclear triad? The Americans will not strike the nuclear triad. That's out of the question. There's really nothing to discuss here because, well, they just won't. That's all. It's impossible.
Strategic military airfields. That is, Operation Putin is about nuclear facilities, the Pacific Fleet, the Northern Fleet, strategic aviation, all of that.
It wasn't the Americans themselves who struck, actually.
I'm hinting that it was done with our hands.
With our hands, that's quite possible, you see, but not directly at nuclear sites, not at the silos, not at the nuclear missile storage facilities. No, that's a red line, an international red line that no one will cross. I'm sure of that. As for Crimea, now that's where there is significant room for various possibilities and indeed ample room for creative imagination. A huge amount is concentrated in Crimea. Well, the Russians have turned Crimea into a military base. Crimea used to be a place for people to relax, but now it's a military base, heavily fortified, with nuclear warheads, apparently, and a huge number of troops, equipment, and everything that goes with it. Crimea is Ukrainian territory. Just a reminder, in case anyone has forgotten, that's why we do whatever we want with our own territory. If we have the means to do something, then of course, the cards are in our hands. Ideally, of course, we would cut off and blockade Crimea, somehow bomb everything in Crimea that is related to military infrastructure. Everything, take out everything possible, even the impossible. Bomb the Crimean bridge so there's no way to deliver ammunition and so on. Bomb the railway that the Russians built to Mariupol, and then there will be an ambush, then a siege, then a blockade, then it'll be a real mess. That's it. But in order to do this, of course, we know all the coordinates, everything. Well, in general, everything is known. To do this, you need missiles, you need a political decision. There is a political decision, there is political will. The missiles are already available and more are on the way. So I think the probability is high. Of Crimea getting wrecked, I think the probability of that is very high.
And I think our audience will agree. Write in the comments below whether you agree with Dmytro Ilyich and what you think the probability is in percentage terms. We are very interested. Dmytro Ilyich,
Crimea is just asking for a Dasha. Crimea is asking to get hit. Well, it is. Because, I repeat, it's our territory. There is a lot of enemy military force and equipment there. And in order to, first of all, you can make them flee without even having our troops enter the territory of Crimea. This is a unique situation because if you cut off the bridge and the railway, they'll only have the ferry crossing left. And if you take absolutely everything out, well, they'll run just like they did from the Kharkiv region back then, from Kherson, and they'll have no other choice but to flee. So again, there's plenty of available room here for the military to do productive and essential work.
I'd even say it's better if they swim out of Crimea freestyle, breaststroke, or dog paddle, and the faster the better. That would be really great. Dmytro Ilyich, so I did my homework. I just analyzed open sources to see how many possible nuclear sites or sites with strategic nuclear aviation there are, what Google tells me, and so on. There are dozens of military sites in Crimea that could be connected to the nuclear triad. These include the Saky airfield, the base in Dzhankoi, underground storage facilities in Feodosia, and the fleet in Sevastopol. And if one of them gets hit by a JASSM missile, a long-range Neptune missile, that's not just a strike against Russia, that's the beginning of a new phase of the war. Dmytro Ilyich, can we do this using, for example, only Ukrainian missiles or, say, American missiles like JASSM, for instance?
We can do this by using a combined strike, including actively employing naval drones as well. But regarding the naval fleet, the Black Sea fleet in Crimea, I wouldn't rush to any conclusions because, in my opinion, it's not there anymore.
They're all in Novorossiysk.
Yes, the entire fleet has crowded into Novorossiysk over there. I think part of it has already headed toward the shores of Abkhazia. They're also building facilities for them near Okamchira. Let me remind you, in case anyone forgot, Abkhazia is actually the territory of Georgia. There is no independent sovereign Abkhazia. It's Georgian territory. That's it. And I say this with great respect for the Abkhaz people. I myself have been to Gagra, Gudauta, Ochamchira, and a few other places back in the day. So I don't have any negative feelings toward the Abkhaz people. But Abkhazia is the territory of Georgia, and that's something we need to remember. And it was the Russians who separated Abkhazia from Georgia. It was the Russians who did this. Let me remind you. Abkhaz and Georgians used to live together perfectly well. Perfect. And they will live together perfectly well again. And the Ossetians too, they have families in common. And yet suddenly they were made into enemies. It's all the Russians. It's their tactic. They've always used this divide and conquer strategy throughout the former Soviet Union. And as a result, Armenians and Azerbaijanis, between whom there seemed to be terrible enmity, are soon going to sign a peace treaty, Armenia and Azerbaijan, without Russia's involvement. And why is Russia even needed at all? Who is she to decide anything? And this is happening, I should note, thanks to Ukraine, because if Ukraine hadn't bravely resisted Russia, neither Armenia nor Azerbaijan would have been able to raise their voices. We have to acknowledge that. Now, regarding the facilities you listed above, well, naturally, these military facilities are just asking for it. They're practically saying, attack me, attack. That's right. Moreover, I repeat, we have all the necessary data. We have many partisans in Crimea, and there are still many people in Crimea who sympathize with Ukraine. Let's not forget that either. And of course, we have everything we need to strike. But with what should we strike? Well, we have a military command. They're smarter than I am. They'll decide.
As for the truly important topic, this is indeed the second significant topic I have picked. It's about the Tomahawk and JASSM missile strikes, which have been extensively hyped up in the media for several days now. What's going on? At first, there was a media leak. Supposedly, Trump spoke with Zelensky by phone and in a private conversation said, "Why aren't you striking St. Petersburg and Moscow?" And Zelensky asks, "But with what should we strike, Mr. Trump?" And at that point, Trump offers him missiles, American JASMs, and so on. This kind of information story came out, and it forced Trump to justify himself. But the fact remains, Russian propaganda was furious. What does it mean to strike Moscow and St. Petersburg? Let's discuss the possibility that Ukraine has been given the green light for attacks on Moscow and St. Petersburg on military targets.
I will. Let me remind you that Ukraine has already been striking both Moscow and St. Petersburg for quite some time. With what? With drones? Not with missiles, with drones. We can easily recall just a few years ago, a Ukrainian drone flying over the Kremlin Domain was clearly and distinctly visible on Red Square. It was shot down just as it was about to descend there, right above the historic site. We remember 3 strikes in roughly the same spot in Moscow City. We remember drones over Moscow and over St. Petersburg. That we remember. As for missile strikes, could Trump have said something like that? Well, of course, yes. Why not? Well, if Russia is striking Kyiv and other cities, the question naturally arises. Trump was right to ask Zelensky, why aren't you striking back? And Zelensky answered correctly, well, give us missiles that can reach there and we will strike. And of course, Trump understands, well, not just Trump, any reasonable person understands that in order to force the enemy to make peace, you need to take a whole series of mirror, symmetrical actions, actions that would be like this. For example, if they strike Kyiv, the sky over Kyiv turns black, immediately there is a strike on Moscow. The sky over Moscow turns black. And the question is asked, so how do you like that? How's your mood now? Are you going to keep striking? We will. Well, let's give it a try. They strike again, we strike again, until they start thinking, and you have to strike at Moscow. Petersburg, Petersburg is something else. I stick to the following logic. All major and minor affairs are always handled in the capitals of states. All uprisings start in the capitals. All decisions are made in the capitals. That's why if Ukraine strikes, of course, it's very important whether it's Yeltsin or Alabuga or Tambov, where the gunpowder plant is. Soon I'll know all the Russian military-industrial sites by heart. Yes, the military-industrial complex, that's all good. But the war must absolutely come to Moscow. Moscow truly needs to feel and experience what war is. Because even though there are quite a significant number of people in Moscow who genuinely hate the current Putin regime, who are strongly against the ongoing war with Ukraine, and who actively support Ukraine, I say this quite deliberately, they definitely and unequivocally exist. However, their overall number is not critically large enough to initiate a widespread uprising. And then there's fear. Listen, fear has enveloped all of Russian society. It's scary, I understand that. But the Russian authorities are acting lawlessly. Of course it's scary. But there are these people in Moscow. There is a non-critical number of them. But Moscow must feel the war the way Kyiv feels it. Maybe even more so. So what do we have so far? There's a war going on somewhere out there. Somewhere out there. Here in Moscow, the stores sell exactly the same things as before the war. In restaurants, on the Patriarch Ponds, or in 5-star hotels, they serve oysters with Chanticleer, just like they always did. Nothing has changed. People are celebrating holidays, concerts are being held, Theaters are full, the city is lit up, and there are practically no alarms. Well, the airports have started to close. Yes, but that only affects a relatively small number of people. That's what I'm calling Muscovites in this case. Moscow needs to feel the war in order to ask its damn leadership what's going on. Why are we even being bombed? Oh, that's right. You declared war on Ukraine 3.5 years ago, entered its territory, tried to enslave it, but you failed. So just leave, end this mess already. Do you want us to be bombed? What do we have to do with it? That will be the typical point of view of the average Muscovite. What do I have to do with it? That's what he'll say. It was Putin who made the decision, not me. And as long as they have everything in the stores and restaurants, and outwardly all this facade remains the same, they won't even start thinking about the war. They will only start thinking about it when there are constant air raid alerts, hours-long terrible traffic jams, a total collapse in the streets, when the metro is packed with people trying to wait out the alert, when this goes on sleeplessly for them night after night only, then will they start to ask what's going on. But as long as nothing specific is flying toward Moscow, they don't even have the question. Well, there's a war going on somewhere. Some suckers are going off to die for money. But that's their own stupid business. What about us? We didn't start this. Putin needs it this way. To hell with them, with Putin, and with those suckers who go off to die for cash and end up dead. Moscow doesn't feel the war. That's why I stick to the following theory. We need to get more missiles. We already have a lot, but we need to get more missiles, both ours and foreign ones. After that, I think Volodymyr Zelensky can confidently address Putin and say, Vladimir Putin officially declared that if, starting from midnight tomorrow, missiles and drones fly into Ukrainian territory, we will strike back multiple times. That's it. If they do, well, then an intense bombing of Moscow begins. Not residential neighborhoods, God forbid, not civilians, not, kindergartens like those bastards did here with Ahmadid Hospital launching missiles. No. Military targets. Concentrations of military equipment, the general staff, anything military related. Right there. That's what I support. I believe that's how it should be. This is war, guys. We didn't start it. You've been engaging in terrorism for 3.5 years. You're terrorizing the peaceful Ukrainian population. Many of our children are already stuttering from the horror. We are raising a generation of war children. What did you think? That you'd get away with it? No, you won't.
Dmitry, about the Tomahawk. Why is this being hyped up in the media, right? But we all understand perfectly well that unfortunately Ukraine won't get Tomahawks, but still there's all this media buzz.
I don't know. Well, look, Trump is an interesting guy. I've already told you, remember? Trump is not the hero of my story. I'll say it again.
He's ours.
I'll say it again, definitely not the hero of my story, but a truly damn interesting figure. Dasha, we've talked about this many times. Remember, I said that no one is allowed to mock the greatest and most powerful country in the world and its legitimately elected president. We've discussed this constantly. I said that sooner or later, Trump or those behind Trump would lose their patience, they'd get furious, they'd just become enraged, and then Putin will be in real trouble. So, as I understand the party's policy, I think that if Trump sees, look, Kellogg has already been in Kyiv for several days. Today is his second day here, I think. Today is Wednesday, so it's his third day here. Kellogg has been in Kyiv for 3 days and will stay another 4 days. Everyone's already saying we need to set up a duty roster for American leaders and officials. Because as long as Kellogg is here, Kyiv isn't being bombed.
Yes.
This only means one thing. Putin is scared. I'm just calling things by their names. Bombing Kyiv while Americans are here would mean he's afraid of America, afraid of Trump. It's only logical if he really didn't care. If he was such a tough guy, I do whatever I want. Like Kellogg, I don't give a damn. He would just bomb everything and everyone. No, he's not bombing. If he's not bombing, it means he's afraid. He's not made of steel, he's scared, he's nervous. So let's not make him out to be some kind of monster who fears nothing. No. He's human with his own fears. We absolutely need to bring those deep-seated fears to the very surface, truly stir them up, and then effectively use those very fears directly against him. So about Donald Trump, if Vladimir Putin keeps making a complete fool out of Trump and keeps playing incredibly dumb himself, if he continues to openly mock him in front of the entire world, Trump says, enough, this needs to stop, but Putin keeps fighting. I absolutely wouldn't rule out that Trump might launch tomahawks. Really, I absolutely wouldn't rule it out. Why not? He's unrestrained, he's tough, we can see that. He's capable of making decisions that are non-linear. He's capable of taking action. In business, you can't succeed if you just follow a template. Business favors people who want cookie cutter, and Trump came to our world from that environment. That's why he acts the same way in politics. That's why I have a feeling, a strong one, in fact, that if Putin starts acting up, it'll come to tomahawks and quickly.
Dmitry Ilyich, naturally, Trump said that after the 50 days he gave Putin to make peace or reach a peace agreement, the Russian leader will want peace. That's what Trump thinks. He often says he wants peace. I think he does want it. I hope he wants it. We'll find out soon. End of quote. So then the US president said that...
Sorry, Dasha, there was a song like that. You want to, but you stay silent. See, he wants to, but he stays silent.
Yes. Unfortunately, he neither wants to nor stays silent, but attacks and kills. The US president has now said that he does not plan to provide Ukraine with long-range weapons. The part about jazz is unclear. Reuters further writes that despite threats to increase sanctions, Putin will expand territorial claims as his troops advance. He intends to continue military actions until the West accepts his terms for peace.
What confuses me? Here's what confuses me about this 50-day time frame. Honestly, I have to say, it confuses me. Why 50 days? Why not 20 days? Why not 10? Why not 3 days? Why 50? This is what I'm ready to discuss the topic, because I did the math right away. Well, that's roughly until the 1st of September. And by the 1st of September, summer is over. And summer is the best opportunity to go on the offensive. So you could also say that Trump, in agreement with Putin, is giving him 50 days to try to seize more territory from Ukraine so that later he can wrap things up with some successes on the ground, if there are any. So far, we've already passed the halfway point of summer. Yes, summer has crossed its midpoint, but there have been no breakthroughs. We can see it ourselves, right? I'll tell you a secret, they can't happen, honestly. Well, unless something extraordinary happens, but they can't happen, and it's a long story why. Well, the military explains to me why breakthroughs in principle are impossible. Neither theirs nor ours. Unless we get some interesting new weapon. But that's a separate topic for discussion. That's why I have a vague suspicion that Trump and Putin have come to an agreement, and Trump is giving him time until the end of the summer. Maybe it's just a vague suspicion and has nothing to do with Trump's actual plan. But then I have a question, why 50 days? Why not 10, for example? I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. I'm being sincere. In any case, we see a Europe that has awakened, that is now working like clockwork, that is ready to spend money on Ukraine, on its own armament, is rearming at a rapid pace. Germany is especially pleasing in this regard. I know very well what Germans are like. They are very concrete, precise, diligent, creative, and punctual people, often demonstrating a strong sense of order and a remarkable commitment to their work and responsibilities. Their meticulous nature and innovative spirit are truly commendable.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
If they need something, they'll make it, and they'll do it at the highest level. From the most sophisticated medical equipment to Mercedes cars. So, of course, I imagine, and we also know a bit of history with you, how Germans know how to pull themselves together in tough times. What is the German war machine? So I suspect that the Germans, well, they snapped out of it quickly this time. Their largest corporation hired 70,000 people quickly. And now it's operating in such a way that its shares have surpassed the combined value of Mercedes and BMW shares. It is second only to Lockheed Martin, the American Defense Corporation. So I think the Germans will now be the locomotive of Europe. Europe will rearm quickly while simultaneously arming Ukraine. They won't back down anymore. They've understood everything about Russia. No one needs to explain anything about Russia to anyone anymore. Everyone already understands everything. There's no way back. Except for Trump. Trump still except for Trump. Trump still lives in illusions, saying he's not on anyone's side, that no one supports him, and so on and so forth. Yes, let's not demonize Trump.
He handles that perfectly well on his own, Dmytro Ilyich.
Trump is a negotiator. Trump under Staluki, well, I've said this before, is giving him a chance. To Putin, he said, this is my friend. I get along great with him. He didn't vote for the UN resolutions. He said, right now we won't give anything to Ukraine. And Zelensky is bad. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't thank me. And we gave them so much. And if you went for Biden, but me, and so on. He was passing the ball. That's diplomacy. He was passing the ball to Putin. Look, I'm behaving reasonably toward you. Come on, wrap it up. I need you to finish this. People close to Trump tell me that Trump genuinely doesn't understand why anyone would fight at all when you could be making money, trading, making money, doing business. But it's the fools who fight. Well, fools fight, smart people make money. And that's why he genuinely wants to end this war. And to Putin, he's like, here's a pass, here's another pass for you. Look, I'm being reasonable now. It's your move. Come on, your turn. But Putin doesn't. Putin says Trump is a wonderful person. We had a great conversation, and then he bombs Kyiv. And as I said, one day Trump's patience will run out. It will run out. Well, and it did run out. How else could it have been? What, was Putin supposed to make a laughing stock out of Trump or something? Would he have mocked him in front of everyone? How do you imagine that happen? Just compare America with all its power and compare it to Russia. Besides, yes, America, people tell me Trump is going to abandon Ukraine now. I've always said, and I keep saying, don't talk nonsense. He can't just abandon Ukraine, because then Americans wouldn't be able to talk to anyone at all. As soon as they start supporting someone, they will be told, but you abandoned Ukraine, and before that you abandoned Afghanistan. And if you also abandon Ukraine, then that's a sign of a loser. So you are losers. You are not the coolest guys on planet Earth. You are nobody at all. You say you're going to be friends, then you dump your friends. How can anyone do business with you? Well, Trump could never go for that, because it would damage America's image. It's elementary, Watson, what I'm saying right now. That's why Trump was giving him signals, but he didn't respond. And Trump said, well, you're a real jerk. Is that what you want? Is that how you're going to act with me? All right. Now I'm going to give it to you good. And that's it. That's how it works. So I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that, based on precisely what I am currently saying and articulating, the entirety of Europe will unequivocally and resolutely never turn its back on the sovereign nation of Ukraine. The US will never turn its back on Ukraine. They will provide everything. And here, look how the interests have aligned. The interests have matched up phenomenally. The Americans are showing themselves as the masters of the war. At the same time, they're not giving weapons to Ukraine for free, but selling them through Europe. And Trump says not a single cent from Americans is going to support Ukraine. Moreover, we've boosted our military industrial complex, given jobs to millions of people who pay taxes. We're strengthening America. Brilliant. It's a great deal for America. For Europe, it's a great deal too. Europe has the money, and spending it on armaments is wonderful. Now, with these weapons, Ukraine will be able to handle Russia. It's good for Europe, but it's good for us too. Here, the only one suffering is Putin. Only the Russian side is at a loss. Everyone else is benefiting, absolutely everyone. That's why we should be in a good mood, in my opinion. There's no reason to feel bad. Ideally, of course, it would be great if Kellogg could stay here a bit longer. And I would like to appeal to Vitaly Klitschko to grant Mr. Kellogg an apartment in Ukraine on behalf of the city, and to Volodymyr Zelensky to grant Ukrainian citizenship to Mr. Kellogg. We already allow dual citizenship, and it's been allowed in America for a long time, so that Mr. Kellogg can live here in an apartment allocated by the Kyiv City Council, and then, well, Kyiv won't be bombed. That's it.
Dmitry Ilyich, regarding military aid, or more precisely, the purchase of American weapons by our partners. So, under Trump's initiative, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, and Canada have agreed to finance American weapons for Ukraine. At the same time, France will not join, Italy will not join, and the Czech Republic will not join. They will not buy weapons from the US. Why?
I think it's much simpler than that. The coalition countries have divided the responsibilities among themselves.
Right.
So the French, they have a powerful military industry. I think the French will manufacture their own weapons and supply them to Ukraine. So that will be their contribution. Some will produce their own, like the French. The Czechs, they also have a formidable military industry dating back to the 1930s. Škoda was operating there. Hitler dreamed of capturing Czechoslovakia as quickly as possible, along with Škoda, which was running at full capacity for the military complex. So I think these countries will simply make their contribution with their own products. And some, like Germany, will contribute both with their own products and by purchasing from others. So they will come to an agreement, they will reach an agreement. The main thing to understand, Dasha, is that the verdict for Putin and Russia has been signed and there is no turning back. That is absolutely clear to me. No one is going to back down. They will press him until the end, because otherwise it would be bad for them. They understand after a listen, it would be naive, it would be foolish to imagine, yes, foolish, that the whole world loves Ukraine so much that they're willing to spend their own money just so Ukraine can hold on. But every leader of every country thinks first and foremost about their own country. It's in the Europeans' interest for Ukraine to win, because if Ukraine, God forbid, were to lose, Putin would rush further towards them, drunk on Ukrainian blood. He would go after them. He would definitely go into the Baltic countries. He would rush into Poland. And the French, for example, think, well, okay, he won't go to France, that's clear. But he will go to the Baltic countries. But then we have to stand up for the Baltic countries. According to Article 5, we have to go to war with Russia. So one way or another, do you understand what the situation is? That's why we need to support Ukraine, so that Ukraine can deal with these fascists, and then everything will be fine for Europe.
Dmitry Ilyich, of course, the most important news is the 18th package of EU sanctions against Russia. They will continue to discuss it all the way until July 18th. Discussion of the 18th package of sanctions against Russia will be included in the agenda of the EU Council meeting on general issues on the 18th of July. Slovakia and Malta are still blocking. They don't want to, well, that's a problem. Today, Kallas said that this is very bad, but again, they cannot accept this 18th
Dasha
package to the opinion of the matter.
What kind of package? 18th. Therefore, which July should it be considered? In general, the 18th, that's logic. This is clear. Yes, that's exactly how it works. The 17th package was examined on the 17th.
Are you interested in numerology? Let's be honest.
No, not at all.
Not at all? Look, our interview comes out on the 17th of July, 2025. Just for a moment, the 17th.
As my favorite Vysotsky sang, I pity you devotees of fatal dates and numbers. So that means he wasn't talking about us. So Malta and Slovakia too. Well, Fico, it's clear that he's a scoundrel. It's obvious that he's funded by Russia, just like Orban. Another scoundrel. There you go. But in this case, Dasha, it's all about bargaining. I mean, it's like a European marketplace where everyone is told you have to sign and everyone understands. Yes, you have to sign. Fico's task from Putin is to stall things. But there are certain points after all. He doesn't live in Russia or with Russia. He lives in the European Union, so there are levels of pressure on him as well. And in the end, they tell him, what do you want? He says, well, I would, well, this. Well, this? Well, then here you go. Take this. And this too? And this too? Now you're getting greedy? Then we'll prepare something bad for you right now. It's all very simple. Slovakia is a small country. It depends on the decisions of the European Union, of Germany, of France. Well, that's all obvious. So no, they'll put up some resistance just for show. Fico will work off the money that Putin sent him for his disruptive activities within the European Union. And in the end, everyone will agree and the 18th package will be implemented. No one will be able to do anything about it. Of course.
So we've established that. Now, as for the 17 Patriot systems, so as usual, Trump said 17 Patriot systems. After that, no one understood what he meant, whether he was talking about launches or systems.
He didn't understand it himself.
So Trump himself called Merkel after another attack on Ukraine and unexpectedly agreed to sell more Patriots. According to the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump surprised German Chancellor Merz when, after another Russian strike on Ukraine, he called him personally and agreed to sell not 2, but 5 Patriot systems to Kyiv. The Wall Street Journal reports 5 systems. Trump said 17. What's going on?
It looks like Trump confused systems with batteries. Probably 5 systems, 17 batteries. But we need to wait and see. So we're not just guessing blindly. Otherwise, that wouldn't be right. We need to wait for specifics. Trump could have mixed it up, or there could have been translation issues. He could have, you know how Trump talks. I've noticed he often skips words. He often leaves out connecting words. So he could have said systems or batteries. He just skipped it, said 17 Patriots. Then he moved on. His mind works fast. You can tell it's quick. That's it. And that's why we'll soon find out what's actually there and how many there will be.
Dmytro, now let's talk about Melania Trump. When I heard this story about Melania...
Sorry, can I tell you, in my opinion, what's more important than the Patriots?
Of course.
Offensive missiles, they are sobering. They really sober you up. If it were up to me, I'd get a bunch of offensive missiles, if that's possible. And then you would speak to Putin in the language of ultimatums. 1 more missile at Kyiv and tomorrow 3 at Moscow. For every one of your missiles, we'll respond with 3. Especially since it's very difficult for the Russians to shoot down Western missiles. Missiles like Taurus, Attack-MS, these are very serious missiles, very serious. And of course they will shoot some down, but most will reach their targets. And that will be serious. These strikes, though, you understand, strikes on Moscow were nails in the coffin of Putin and his regime. This needs to be understood very clearly. But anyone in Russia will say, well, look where we've ended up. We used to live normally. These are simple, basic thoughts. We lived normally until that bastard went to war in Ukraine. And now we're being hit. So what's happening? Is it him who brought us to this? So is he to blame? It used to be fine and now it's bad. That's how ordinary people think. If he had taken Ukraine in 3 days, or hell with it, in half a year, the overwhelming majority of the Russian population would have said, well done. That's right. You taught those Nazis, those Banderites a lesson. You punished them properly. You showed the strength of Russian weapons the right way. But since he's been bogged down for 3.5 years, Russia has lost almost 1 million people. There are economic problems and it's only getting worse and worse. That's when they start. Their people, after all, they start to react. It was supposed to be good, but what is this? What? Why did it have to be this way? As Russians say, so what? So what? We had a guy in the army. He used to say, what? What? So what? There you go. That's exactly what I want to say to all Russians.
So does that mean just missiles could reach Moscow and St. Petersburg?
Well, for Ukrainians, just missiles are better than an orgasm. See, I'm already writing poetry. So of course they could reach there. I'll tell you more. They almost certainly will.
God willing.
Petersburg, again, for me, Petersburg is not a priority city. I would direct everything at Moscow. Everything that's available at Moscow, at Moscow, at Moscow. Everything happens in the capital. Everything is decided in the capital. At Moscow, that's it. Everything goes there.
Mitic, and for the finale, I've prepared a topic.
So that Zelensky would also address Russians, Muscovites, and say, Muscovites, leave Moscow, leave. It's going to get very hot. We don't want casualties. Leave, evacuate Moscow. That's how it's done.
Air raid alert in Moscow.
Not don't leave, but leave, things are going to get bad. That's what I would do.
I'd really like to hear those Soviet phrases, air raid alert in Moscow. Only, I want all of that to actually be in Moscow.
But they do have it. They do. Just not as much as they really should be.
Dmytro for the finale, Melania Trump. Her name is Melania Trump or Trumpenko. So when Trump said this at the press conference, I think it was with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, I thought that this was the way he wanted to present why he made this decision. It's a kind of soft PR approach that he just used as a communicator to get his point across, when in fact Melania Trump never actually said that. It's just a way of presenting the material, a little trick. But since Melania Trump is friends with Alexandra Nikolenko, Miss Ukraine, who, by the way, married Trump's business partner, thanks to Melania Trump, and they lived together in the same room when they participated in beauty pageants, do you think? Could Melania Trump be an advocate for Ukraine in Trump's eyes and perhaps the best lobbyist for Ukraine if Melania truly supports Ukraine?
I didn't know that Melania lived in the same room with Sasha. I didn't know that. Is that what they say? Yes.
When we discussed the inauguration, by the way, we talked about this with you as well. The inauguration of Donald Trump, and Sasha Nikolaenko was there with her husband. At that time, a huge number of analytical articles appeared saying that Sasha Nikolaenko and Melania Trump were together in the same room, that they are friends, and that it was Melania Trump who introduced Sasha Nikolaenko to Trump's business partner, who is now her husband.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. Look, I've known Sasha Nikolaenko since 2002. She was Miss Ukraine. She studied in Odessa. She was Miss Ukraine. I remember when she came to Kyiv, how we met at an event at the Kyiv Palace, Ukraine. And then I participated as a jury member in the contest she organized. She's a very pleasant, very good person, Alexandra Nikolaenko. And I want to say that. Yes, she married Phil Ruffin. Phil Ruffin is one of Donald Trump's closest friends and business partners. And yes, at the inauguration, we all saw those shots. Alexandra Nikolaenko and Phil Ruffin were right next to the first couple of Americans. Of course, Sasha can't help but care deeply about the fate of her homeland. Undoubtedly, she is a person, a living person. And it's quite possible that she and Melania Trump somehow played a role in getting Trump to turn toward Ukraine. But that's more in the realm of reading tea leaves. I don't know that for sure, but I can find out.
There you go. And that's a wonderful ending, dear audience. Next time, Dmitry Ilyich will come with new insider information. Next Thursday, he will tell you the whole story, whether Melania really does have a close relationship with Sasha Nikolenko now, what happened, and our audience will be waiting for it.
Right now, someone from their very closest and most intimate circle is watching us, observing our every move.
Right.
Of this couple, Alexandra Nikolenko and Phil Ruffin, and I will definitely ask them about it. And if he can talk about it, definitely knows, but if he can share it, he will. If he tells me and allows me to share it with everyone, then I'll talk about it next time. Let's make a note of this. It's going to be interesting.
Friends, now that's a gripping finale. Friends, give this video a like. Stay tuned for next Thursday. We'll lay all our cards on the table because we have plenty of them. Subscribe to Dmytro Gordon's and Olesia Batsman's YouTube channels. Subscribe to Dmytro Gordon's Telegram channel, Instagram, TikTok, and also to my YouTube channel, Dasha Shaslivaya. Dmytro Ilyich, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to next Thursday.
Thank you, Dasha. Thank you to our wonderful audience. Glory to Ukraine!
Glory to the heroes!